Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome to Big Blend Radio. It's starting to become a tradition that every Memorial Day we talk about inns across America who bake for soldiers. It's so cool. This is a program it's a nonprofit called Soldiers Angels, and you can go to their website and check it out at soldiersangels.org. And these innkeepers get together, they bake, and they send these delicious treats over to active military. And I think this is amazing. And as you know, Nancy and I travel the country. We document parks and public lands. And a lot of the things that we do are about connecting communities and parks, historic sites. So we do cover a lot in regards to our military. But also one of our passions is to stay in bed and breakfast. And we've made really good friends doing that. And some of them are on the show today. Some of them you've heard on our shows, and they are awesome. We've got Steve and Karen Wilson. Steve's not with us right now because guess what? He's checking guests in. That's what happens when innkeepers hang out. And or he's out, he's tasting his beer that he's brewing downstairs, right? But Steve and Karen own and run the Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast. They are located in the heart of the Montfort Historic District in Asheville, North Carolina. Very historic, over 600 historic homes in their neighborhood, very close to the downtown area, the Blue Ridge Mountains, Smoky Mountain National Park, Blue Ridge Parkway, Pisgah National Forest, which is exactly where I'm sitting right now today. It's beautiful as a storm rolls in. So let's all stay online. But go to lion-rose.com. So welcome back, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. It's been like a few days since we've talked and actually even seen you. Isn't that lucky? Speaking of baking,
it's been good.
Tell everybody about this chocolate bundt cake. I didn't say butt cake. See how good I was? Bundt cake. I did it right. This dark chocolate bundt cake was delicious, paired with Steve's Dirty Godiva dark chocolate stout brew that had a little bit of a hint of he used habanero peppers in that, right?
Exactly. He did. Yep. Spice that one up a little bit for version 2. Yep.
You
but as far as that cake, I just tried a different recipe, wanted to do something special for Nancy's birthday when you guys were visiting. So it was just a nice gesture. Yeah, good.
We should have taken those extra slices though, because we were like sitting there going,
yeah, Steve managed to finish those off. So
I bet he did. Well, everyone, I do hope you go to the Lion and the Rose when you go to Asheville, North Carolina. Beautiful Victorian bed and breakfast. And you've also got your friend Jay Schultz was going to be on the show today. Can't make it. He's been on our show before. Yeah. He is a retired U.S. Army officer and owns Spartan Photography. Go to spartanphotography.zenfolio.com. But he baked with you guys this year, right? He went on this mission. So this is not just innkeepers doing this.
Right. We just thought it'd be fun to include other veteran, small business owned kind of properties this time around, just, to edit more interest of people who care about the military and just get a little bit more people participating.
So you mean Nancy and I should have done this, that we're late to the scene? We're doing the podcast, but I
guess that's true. I guess I should try to recruit you. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think that. So any of us could do this. And is it always over Memorial Weekend time frame, or is it any time?
It can, if anybody decides to do it, they can do it at any time, and they can choose to do it as often as they want. They can do it on a monthly basis or whatever works for them. We just decided to do it because May for Military Appreciation Month.
Makes sense. I think we're going to have to do something special when we're around you again, but maybe we'll start off at Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast because we're going to be seeing them this year too. We love that. Tiffany's a Bed and Breakfast. Tiffany and Bob Bertram own this, and they're in a small little tiny mining town. What was a mining town. In fact, part of the old mine is actually on their property. They have acres of forest. They're just outside Hot Springs, and Hot Springs National Park is actually one of the first national parks, but don't tell anybody because everyone will argue with it. But it was one of the first pieces of
Mhm.
land that was set aside for recreation in our country. So go to tiffany'sbedandbreakfast.com. This is like an amazing place to stay in this giant log cabin overlooking nature and beautiful gardens. And Tiffany, those brownies, that banana bread, just saying, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I mean, every time we come see you, I get like, oh, I'm getting my sweet tooth on. Don't eat the gummy bears on the way because you
That's
know you're
right.
getting some sweetness when you get there and music.
All of our guests get their own pan of brownies when they check in.
Oh my gosh. And they're good. Trust me, they are good. They are so good. You must have them. So yeah. So welcome back. How was the eclipse? You had a big gathering for the eclipse.
The eclipse was so awesome.
Mm.
I've only seen a partial before and didn't understand why people said, "Oh, if you're not at 100%, you just aren't seeing the eclipse." And they're right. If you're around for the next one, you've got to be in totality.
Oh, I'm going to be pretty ancient then. But you know, that's I'm gonna, I'm gonna have glasses and different glasses or whatever at that point. But how is Bob doing? Because we got to give him a shout out too, military wise, don't we?
He is good. Yes, he's not here right now, but yes, he served in the Air Force back in the Vietnam era. So that's part of the reason we're involved in this.
Mm. Does he
Mhm.
bake with you when you do this?
He does. They're Bob's brownies, so he's in charge
You
of them.
you never know what you're going to get with Bob. I'm just saying. I'm kidding. We love Bob. I and you know, so I know when guests check in, you do get these brownies, and they're amazing. And Tiffany's, you're the one with the banana bread. That's your thing. Banana
Right.
bread. Did you send that off this year?
No, banana bread isn't. Fruit breads aren't really
What?
good as far as shipping for long periods of time, so they kind of
They don't
discourage us from
understand
sending stuff like
that
that.
banana bread is a really good way of making toast because who wants regular bread when
You're
you can
right, it
have
is.
banana bread toast? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, and I want to go back to Karen real quick because Karen, you leave, little delicious packages for your guests too at the Line and the Rose in
Mhm.
the morning. Like when you get
Yep.
there, you get beer and what there's cookies sometimes, brownies sometimes. You put wine in
Yep.
your
Sometimes
brownies.
cupcakes. Yep. I
Mm.
do. That's my little
Wow.
secret ingredient in my brownies is wine.
I'm not complaining
Ooh.
at all. I could use some right now. But I want to bring Maria Chamberlain on the show. She has not been on our show before. We've also got Chef Rob Weswick joining us, and they're both from New Hampshire. We haven't gone to New Hampshire before, like physically.
Oh,
Nancy and I
you'll
have
have to
not done
come.
that. I know on our tour, I was looking at this going, oh, cool. We've never been to New Hampshire and like this isn't good enough. But yes, this is a first step, right? But New Hampshire, welcome everyone. Maria is at the Inn at Oxbow Acres in Milan. Do you pronounce it as Milan? Like
It's
it
actually pronounced Milan.
I knew it.
So when we were purchasing the property, I kept saying Milan, and they were like, "No, that's not right." So I was like, "Milan," and no, that's not right. It's Milan. So I had to think one day when we close, this will be my land, my
Mm.
land. There, I got it.
Get off my land. Uh-oh. That's not the kind of picture you want of an innkeeper. Get off my land. No, but everyone go to oxbowacresnh.com. So welcome. And you've been baking away, right? I was looking at the pictures you sent me. You've got coffee going on. You got all kinds of things going in there for the soldiers.
Yeah, I put in three different types of cookies, and I made homemade granola, which we serve here at the inn. The mom part of me kicked in, like, and I wanted to give the soldiers something healthy to start their morning with and not just cookies. So I put in granola, and who doesn't like a cup of coffee with their cookies? So it's only the instant packages of coffee from Black Rifle, but it'll do in a pinch and it ships well.
Black Rifle is amazing. They do a lot for veterans, veteran owned. Very good. Very good coffee. And I wanted to say this about doing the granola. I think that's really smart because I've eaten granola as trail mix. I'm allergic to nuts, even though I'm nuts. I'm allergic to like tree nuts. And a lot of times granola, you can get it without that. And on the road, sometimes my hand is in the granola bag for that, just because I don't even like milk and whatever. So I just eat it. Like, you know what I mean? You can actually just eat it. I mean, I don't know what type of
You
granola you
can.
make, but you can use
Well,
it
that
as
that
trail
one has
mix.
yeah, that one has nuts, but it's
Yeah.
dangerous when it's cooling, because I make these huge batches and my husband and I walk in and we're like, "Oh, the granola's out. We just have to sample some just like you with the trail mix." So,
Yeah.
you have to
It's like
exercise
healthy.
self-control.
Tell us a little bit about your property and how many rooms. Tell us a little bit about it.
We have 6 rooms. We're on 24 acres. We have land that we lease across the street.
Nice.
That's on the Androscoggin River, which is beautiful with a big field. We're in the process of fencing in that area because we're also a horse boarding facility. So our guests get to
Oh,
enjoy like
Cool.
10 horses and a donkey on the property while they're
oh, you
here.
got a donkey.
Yeah, we have a donkey named Donkey. He loves to engage the other horses and like he's the oldest one on the property practically, but he loves to play. So it's fun watching him. And we have beautiful flowers. I'm a sunflower nut, so I plant rows and rows and rows of sunflowers, and those bloom all summer and fall. And,
Wow.
and dahlias, you can see the dahlias on our website too. I love dahlias, and
Oh my
they're
gosh.
great for weddings and things like that. And we have 6 rooms. It's a cabin, and yeah, we love it here. Just we have beautiful views of the northernmost range of the White Mountains called the Mahoosic Range.
Hmm.
And it kind of goes between New Hampshire and Maine. So we get beautiful sunrise views over the mountains and then gorgeous sunset views over the fields. So
Oh
it's
my
our
gosh.
little
I
bit of
love your
paradise.
logo. I love your
Oh, thank
logo.
you. Yeah, we
I
had
love
an
that.
old oxbow at our old house, which was built in 1790 that we lived in for 20 years. And that oxbow hung on the barn. And also in the river, there's a natural oxbow, the way the curvature of
Oh,
the land
yeah.
is. So it's kind of a play on words. So oxbow acres with the oxbow hanging on the sign out front.
I want to come out there. I love this. I love this. So we're going to go to another destination in New Hampshire. We're going to go to Manchester, not England, but New Hampshire. But the New England stole England's names because there's a lot of British over there. So you can go to ashstreetin.com. That's where we're going to Ash Street Inn. And we're going to talk with Chef Rob Weswick. And Chef Rob is a chef. And him and his wife, you've traveled. You both know the food and hospitality industry. Both of you have that in your lineage. And so it only makes sense you run an inn, but you're also retired from the U.S. Air Force. So welcome, Chef Rob. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. And although I wish I was retired, I served my 4 years in the National Guard. I did not retire. I am a veteran, but I was not a retired Air
Okay,
Force.
so yeah, okay. See, I never know all of the lingo. I do a lot of
Yeah,
military shows, but it's like asking me about college and school. I have no clue all the things you're supposed to say. But
right.
I love that
Mhm.
both you and your wife have this history of food and hospitality, right?
Well, we do, and my wife Margaret actually has a background as a scientist. So we had both had totally different fields.
Wow.
And I came out of the Air Force and I was in telecommunications for many years. And I switched careers and became a chef halfway through my life. And and when I met my wife, she grew up in Germany, and her mom owned a guest house in Germany. And she said later for that and went to university and came to the United States to do a postdoc work. And a 3-year program ended up being 28, 30 years later, she's still here. So, we, so we bought the inn about 10 years ago, and we're in Manchester, the opposite end of where Oxbow Acres is. We're in the biggest city in the 3 states up here in New England. We're the biggest
Oh,
city in New Hampshire, so we're called the Queen City, and we're
oh,
also the biggest city in Maine and Vermont. We're
okay.
basically the
How big
biggest
is a
city.
big city to you guys, though? Like how many
Well,
people?
that's the irony of it all. I grew up in New York so I'm biased on big cities.
I was going to say, really? I'm just
and Manchester is 115,000 people on a good
What?
day. So yeah, we're big, but we're not huge. So it's
That's
a
like
quaint.
the perfect size.
Yes. We
Yeah.
have all the culture that you want, and we're located downtown. We're in an 1885 Victorian house that's been refurbished, modernized. We are part of the mill industry. If you travel up, when you travel up to New England, you'll see that every state up here has a Manchester. And if you're traveling here, you have Manchester, Vermont, Manchester, Maine, Manchester, Connecticut, Manchester, New Hampshire, and it's confusing for out-of-staters or especially foreigners. And we've had people book in the wrong Manchester and find out the day before. It's like, oops, well, that's
No way.
Yeah.
We have not done New England on our tour yet, and New England, it's kind of like I always get confused. Like, okay, is it New England? Who's in there? Who's not? It's like, you guys are the original colonies too. So it's, God, I'm going to be wrong on that. I should never talk about any place I've never been because I'm always going to be wrong. Right?
New Hampshire is one of the original colonies, and we also have a beach and a coast. Okay, it's only 18 miles, but we do have a beach and a coast and a seaport. People don't think about that in New Hampshire, but if you go all the way from north where the Oxbow Acres is down to Manchester, there's a lot of different things in between, all beautiful. And so we're in the city, and but we, as I said, a 5-room inn, and my wife and I both do the baking. She, as an ex-scientist,
well, she's a scientist. She has to
exactly. As a scientist, she loves the measuring of things. So we're going to put together some three items we're going to send, and she'll probably make 2 of them, and I'll make one. So she makes a trail mix cookie, chocolate chip pecan bar. And those are really good. And then I'm going to make my oatmeal raisin cookies because they all travel well. And just like all the other innkeepers here, when our guests arrive, they arrive to different treats. And every day there's something. We rotate what we make, So we rotate different things. But we are real bed and breakfast. We are not, one of those era places. The group here that we're talking about, us innkeepers, are traditional bed and breakfast. Breakfast is included, cook to order breakfast, and that's what makes us all special. All different, all caring owners, and we apply that to what we do. And so, when I was contacted about this, I've been on that side as a young guy. I joined the Air Force at 17, and I didn't know what I was doing. My parents signed me up. They signed me off. I wanted to go. My father was a decorated World War II vet. He said, "That's great. Wow. I'll sign the paper." He was a Silver Star, Purple Heart recipient. So I went in the Air Force as a young man. And once I got over there, I said, "What did I do?" And I was lonely, and I know what it's like getting packages from home, even if it's, back when I was in, it was the late 70s, a pen pal. We had pen pals. We didn't have all this online access. So anything you got from the States when you're overseas is nice. And then, like Maria, I think it was Maria talking about her granola. We also make granola. We do the same thing. I'm going to include, I don't want to, she stole my thunder, so I'm not going to talk about my homemade granola, but we do it also. I'm going to throw a little jar of granola in there. And yes, I do understand.
But that's part of the bed and breakfast thing too, is that you're actually creating something for your guests and people that you're sending over. I love the fact that, this history of families also being connected in military like yours, and we're looking, that's like the last great generation, they say, of World War II veterans, and I think when we do these kinds of things, we realize who is, yes, we have active military. We need to care about them now. There are wars going around the world, and we never know what and how anything could change at any time.
Exactly.
It's kind of wild out there, but also just kind of really respect and do something back, because we're talking about people who put their lives out there. It's actual service. This is, no matter what role you're in. I mean, I've been doing so much on World War II history, and everyone stay tuned. We're doing a whole special on Tuskegee Airmen soon. It's my passion.
Oh, awesome.
The Tuskegee Airmen. I'm
Wonderful.
so I am so like it's like a dream come true. Anyway, because I'm fascinated about that history, but it is about people doing true community service. There's women that were medics and nurses in World War II. In World War, I mean, there were Rosie the Riveters. There were so many people, and off they go. I mean, a woman going over to Italy in that theater, right, setting up camp as a soldier camp for medics that was more dangerous than it was being in the foxhole. Like, you've got to think about this, like what people went through and what is happening today. We've got to think about that and realize what they do out on the line, by whether it's a mechanic. We think about combat engineers. There's all of these multitudes of tasks, communications. They used to call it propaganda, which I think is interesting and funny. But all of these tasks that the military have done to make something happen, some are risking their lives on the line, but the other ones are backup and sometimes also in danger. But no matter what, they have donated their lives to protect ours, to protect others, and make things a safer, peaceful place, right? So
Yeah, we're
to
so
bake
grateful.
cookies is like, this is awesome. It's fun. And it's something I think all of us can do. I want to go to you, Maria. What was your connection to do this? Military speaking, was it just passion to do it? Do you have family members in the military?
Well, my husband, fellow innkeeper, who did not want to be on the podcast because he's a little shy that way, but he has spent
Tell him
31
hi.
years.
Tell him hi.
I will. He's a 31-year retired military veteran. So
Wow.
we
nice.
actually met at the Bob Hope USO in Hollywood 41 years ago, and we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary in July.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
I've been on that end of having him be deployed, even though he served most of his time in the New Hampshire Air National Guard. But we met when he was in the Marine Corps, and then he got activated after 9/11. And he was over in the desert. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
He was the little comforts of home, like, because we have a big family, and I used to decorate for all the holidays, and here he was missing the holidays and the birthdays, and it was Thanksgiving and he wasn't going to be home, and he's like, I just missed your Thanksgiving decorations. And I mentioned that to a friend of mine, and she said, I have these 2 little pilgrim mice. They're really light, they'll be easy to ship, and they're not going to deteriorate or break or whatever. So she gave those to us, I don't know, probably 15 years ago, and those, every time I take them out at Thanksgiving now, it's a reminder of those times, and just a time to think and pray for the families and the people who are deployed.
Yeah.
You really bring up a good point about that. Like, there's just little tiny things, those gestures, those memories. Like, what can we do to just take you home for that second? Because I think when you're in those situations of combat, especially, you need to have that, because it's part of keeping hope of survival too. Survival is a huge thing, and I can not speak it on it as a military person, but I can speak on it from many fronts of many situations in life, having lived in different countries and been through all kinds of survival things that had to happen. Wildfires, shootings, bombs, you name it. Nancy and I have been through it. Lived in Africa and have been through a little bit of hell, but we wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
But when things are like that, you need your brain to have a little, and your soul to have like a shift, to keep you moving, to keep you waking up, to keep you going forward. When I lived in South Africa, all my guy friends, it was mandatory to go into military, and some were not people that should be in military, and one tried to commit suicide. I mean, and we've lived in military communities, and there is so much that goes in it. And I just really believe in these little things that we always just think, oh, it's so little, we need to donate $1 million to make a difference. No, you don't. It's humanity. And that, the military is out there doing their service to give us the freedom of humanity. So what do you think about that, Chef Rob?
I agree. I agree. You know, there's a lot of different things we can do, and they don't have to be big things. This whole group, everyone has mentioned things that they've done or are doing, and it really just brings things back home. And it's really important to keep in mind that every day we go and, you know, we complain about things, that's human nature, but these men and women overseas, they're the ones who are really, you know, they're the front lines. There's a reason. And as you said, whether they're the support personnel or the people right there, everyone is giving up part of their life or all of their life. So it's important to keep that in mind. And these little things will make them smile a little bit, and perhaps they'll share it on or pass it on to the next person. That's all we can do.
Yeah. And I want to go to you, Karen, because both your parents, Steve and your dad, right, served. Not Steve, but your Steve's family. You both have family in the military.
Yeah, both of our fathers did. Yeah, my dad's a Vietnam vet. His dad was a Korean War vet.
Wow.
Both Army. Yeah, both Army.
Yeah,
my dad
Korean
was a medic,
War.
so.
Oh man, and the medics, that's a big deal, man. They get forgotten.
Yeah.
And the Korean War is always forgotten. It is.
Yeah.
It's just always like, you know, that was a war, that was skirmish. But anyway, that don't start me.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And, you know, to me, it's doing those little things. And Tiffany, you've got a husband just like Maria who's served. Just doing those little things. I mean, how does he feel when you're baking for soldiers, the two of you doing this?
Oh, he always says, he always says, I didn't have anybody sending me boxes of cookies when I was in. I said, that's exactly why we're doing it now.
Yeah. I think it's huge. It's huge. And Maria, what you've done too, you know, as a wife of a husband that is active for so many years, going through different wars, right? And going, the Gulf War and Desert Storm and all of that, which is, we lived in 29 Palms out in the Joshua Tree area of California during a lot of that. And there's huge history there about it, but the military folk that we knew during that time frame, it was one tour after another. It was hell on the families. It was hell on the people who were serving. But I wanted to ask you, Maria, as a mom, because it's the hard time is the families. Does it help to be active in doing something for your loved ones and, others, like baking in something, to get through the emotions of being home? Because you just want to pick up the phone and talk to them, right? And maybe you can now, but
back then you couldn't, though. It was very different. And they, the whole waiting in line so that they could maybe get their 10-minute phone call if they were lucky, and you had to be at the phone waiting for them because we didn't have cell phones at the time. So it was very different that way. And it is helpful. The kids would make the welcome home signs and being the greeters. He worked on KC-135s, and Pease Air Force Base would have the Pease greeters. So they would be people who would volunteer. And I often encouraged my friends to go with their kids and just bring some baked goods and make some signs and just show up at Pease, when they were going to have people coming in from a deployment, just so that there was somebody there to welcome them home.
Yeah, because, there's also, the soldiers, men and women who are single, right? Who don't have a family, maybe even when they're where they're going. They come home sometimes in a different port, then they have to get on a train or something, or even a Greyhound bus home. Those things do exist still, by the way. So it's kind of I think, in World War II, when the war was over, there was like marching in the streets and people coming home, and it was like big parades. It's a little different now, in a way. So I think sometimes, whatever we can do to reach out. And Chef Rob, do you have anything to add to that about what it's like to be over? You were saying like you didn't get any correspondence, but what was it like being able, could you make phone calls ever? when you're overseas?
I was stationed mostly over in Germany, so during the Cold War, but we were able to make phone calls, but we had to, I think Maria said, stand in line at the Bundepost to make a call, and at the time it was $20 for like 5 minutes, and $20 in the 70s was a lot of money for a young airman. So you didn't call home much. Sometimes you are able to use ham radio for communication. You call the local number, and then you have a ham radio connecting to call overseas, and you do that for free. But that was about it. And mail call was the important thing. And I said, my mom used to bake. She was a fantastic cook and baker. And that's where I got it from. So she loved to bake. And I know that when she used to bake, she loved it. It helped her. I think you mentioned thinking of me when she being overseas. She made the things at the time. It got her mind off me being away. Because like I said, I was 17 and 18 years old. So
yeah,
it was.
That's young. That's young. It's young. It is. So I want to go to each of you, moving on into the innkeeping world of why you do this, because as everyone can hear, you're all kind, compassionate people with some grit to you, because you can't be an innkeeper and go through military history too and not have some grit, right? So what I want to ask each of you is just a recent moment that made you feel like, yeah, this is why I do what I do. Because I want people to understand innkeeping is not easy. Innkeepers are running often historic homes or property. It's hard work, but they love it. And they love their guests, and they love their community, and love to connect you and get you to the places you want to go and experience. They are like this amazing welcome center, but you can go in there and maybe have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, whatever you want, and feel at home. That's the beauty of inns, is like you feel at home. And they also, I'm going to say this, inns are saving history and saving land. It just doesn't sound, we always think of parks, but if it wasn't for inns, a lot of times these homes may go derelict or just be a historic home and people live in them. They become apartments. I'm not knocking all that, but there's a legacy in the history of the families that were there first. There's a legacy to the land. Tiffany, you have a legacy with your land. That's incredible. Your land, that history and the nature. I mean, you've got Native American and mining history on your property. It's incredible. So you're preserving this space, and there's barred owls. Anyway, so don't start me about the nature that she has. It's awesome. She's in Arkansas. It's the natural state. So I want to go to each of you about an experience that made you really happy about what you do, because you're giving back too. And I want people to understand what you do. So let's start with you, Chef Rob.
Sure.
Since you're new on the show.
Yeah.
On you.
That's fine. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, before I jump to that, I do want to mention, even though we are in the city, we had a bear in a tree, our front lawn, over the weekend. And a young yearling bear came out of the woods and worked his way into this big city of Manchester. And I have film on him eating off from our bird feeders, which I know you're not supposed to leave out, but in the city, I wasn't expecting a bear. So New Hampshire's pretty wild too. Even the cities have wild.
Hey, Karen's had bears in her backyard too, and she's in the city.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not uncommon.
So I guess a couple of weekends ago, I think most of your listeners will know who Southern New Hampshire University is, because SNHU broadcasts commercials all over the country, all over the world. And they had a commencement. Well, their main campus, and they have their Division II school, I believe. The main campus is in just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. So a couple of weekends ago, a whole group of graduates come to walk, because these are adult learners who have been working 20, 30 years, 10 years to get their degree. And the weekend we had the graduation, it was just a fun weekend. All these people got together and they were just having a grand old time, and we were part of, experiencing that. And in fact, we were invited to a place out in Texas, and another place out in Colorado. So, you develop these relationships in a short time. The people they come there, especially if they're celebrating, they're enjoying themselves, they're enjoying the food. They were talking with my wife, Margaret, about she makes yogurt, homemade yogurt, because once again, the scientific background. Well, how do you make your yogurt? And she explains, and they take pictures of her recipe and they walk away. But it was just a good a feeling. The Germans, my wife is German. I think I mentioned that. Glutenischkeit, I believe it's pronounced.
Ooh.
It's just a friendly feeling. You can't really. There's not a translation to English, but it's like it's a homey feeling, and that's, I think, that helps us get through the grit, because it is tough every morning. I'm the chef. I'm down there in the morning. We have a cook to order breakfast. I have to be, they don't want to see a grumpy Rob. They want to see Chef Rob, down there with a smile on his face, and they deserve it. And that's what we do. So that's how we do it. So
you guys get up early in the morning. Innkeepers, they call it out at 10. We're done. Good night. And I'm like, come on, let's party. No, 10 o'clock, because we got to get up early. We got coffee to do, baking to do, all of that stuff. And I'm like, dang. And then, with what we do, we go film stuff with Innkeepers. I'm like, dang, I really have to be up at 5 and showered and be presentable, because you never know when a guest might appear. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you guys have like this on-call life. And so it's like, it's active duty. I'm just saying it is active duty. I want to go to Tiffany, because Tiffany's bed and breakfast, it's beautiful. It's a retreat. I think it's so close to hot springs. I know you always want to bring that up. It's like 15 minutes to hot springs. So you can go do this, the whatever. It's not a city to me. I'm sorry, but, it's not, but you've got all this history with the mob and all kinds of cool stuff. But the national park, which is the town, the city town. But yeah, for you, because you are out in the countryside, I think it is one of the most peaceful places, and you've got so much nature. Bird watching is huge. But for you, what is it? What keeps you going? And you've been in the hospitality industry a lot. I mean, a while.
A long time.
I didn't want to say it that way. I'm just saying.
I'll say it for you.
Yeah.
Now,
you keep doing it.
I do. And the fun part is every day is different. Every guest is different. But I have a great story. Last fall, we had a couple book, and the wife called me before they got here, and she said, my husband, and he's not that old, he had just been recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so they decided they wanted to start making memories while he could still remember them. And so they just planned a trip up here and spent like a week running around and just doing everything they possibly could. And it was just, it warmed your heart and made me cry at the same time. But
yeah,
that's making memories.
That's priceless.
It is. It's one of my favorite things to see people just, having the time of their lives and doing something that they'll remember forever.
Yeah, no, I know that feeling. When we had our band, I used to try and Moonglow is an old standard song, and I tried to get our blues rock band to play this, right, which was the stupidest thing. And it was a New Year's Eve, and we were at a horse camp doing New Year's Eve, and I think it was Y2K. And the band, someone fed our band brownies. All I can say is that. I'm not going to say anything else. They ate
not the kind of brownies you get at Tiffany's.
No, it's not a bed and breakfast brownie. Okay. All I know is our band got like a little happy, and I'm like, what's going on? And I had some too, but we played Moonglow, and I wanted to kill half the band because they don't get it. But this elder couple got up and danced. And it was the first time this lady, they brought her out of her nursing home to be with her husband for New Year's Eve. because they were looking at it was Y2K, it was. And she danced, and it was the last time she danced. And like not even a week later, she passed. And
Mm.
she danced, and her tears were running down her face. Turned out to be her favorite song. And then I really wanted to kill the band because they screwed it up, but she was happy. So you can't. So
There you
no,
go.
those feelings are that's what ins are versus, you know, the other side of the coin. And yeah, and I want to say support the small businesses and watch out for these vacation rental things that are going on in the country. They are actually ruining the hospitality industry because people can't even have. This isn't a show for it, but there's a thing going on, and I'll do another show on that, so I won't go off on it. But support innkeepers and boutique hotels as much as you can, because eventually, if we don't, we will not have authentic travel that we all want. So I'm just going to say it that way.
Mhm.
We'll do a show on the other thing soon. But I'm going to go over to Maria. Give us share a moment for you about being an innkeeper that makes you happy.
Sure. Well, one of the great things about being here is we are pretty remote. We're on the main highway. Rob will know Route 16, but Route
Mhm.
16 comes down to just a 2-lane road when you're all the way up here. And so it's quiet, and people come, and we're here, and they just sit and they just begin to open up and talk because they have the freedom. They just have the freedom to do that. I think it's a safe space for them. And this is kind of a segue into B&B for vets, but we had the best gathering. We throw a reception for the veterans on the first night, and they stayed 2 nights. And last year we had veterans from the age of like 24 to 84, and their spouses, and it was a wonderful gathering. And then just to see this particular group of people, all different ages, all different wars, Korean War and Vietnam War and Gulf War and Afghanistan and all kinds of things. And afterwards, everybody hated to leave. They formed such close bonds. They hung out together the entire weekend. But then there was one young woman that stayed, like checkouts at 11. She was here till probably almost 3, just pouring out her heart because there was people here who would listen. And it's a lonely time, even though we have Instagram and Facebook and social media. People crave human attention and connection, and that's what we as innkeepers can give them.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. The B&B for vets, this is another program. So we talked about Soldiers Angels. You can go to soldiersangels.org and B&B. Now that I have to re-say this because it would say BS and I don't want to say that. So BNBs for vets.org is the website. And this is where bed and breakfast do like a drawing. Everybody does it a different way, but they give a night or two. Everyone's got a different way of doing it for veterans at their bed and breakfast. And Karen, that's something you do too, right?
It is. Yep. We've been doing that since we've got here 5 years ago. Yep.
And Tiffany, you do that too.
Oh, yes.
That's cool. So everyone, you got to keep up with the bed and breakfast with their websites to learn what's going on in their social media. All the links for the bed and breakfast are in the show notes. But Karen, I'm not going to leave you out here. What's a recent experience for you?
Okay, I'll say earlier this week we had 2 very nice couples that just hit it off, and they just started doing everything together while they were here. And by the end, they were friends, and just love seeing that, how people come together and find out when you travel, how small the world is. You connect and make new friends, and I'm just happy. It makes me happy to be like the bridge between these people, and to be a part of it is just, puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, you guys all have like honeymoon people. You got Yeah, I mean
Mhm.
it's like you're the matchmakers. You're the cozy point.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So everyone, Lion and the Roses, lion-rose.com. Also Tiffany's bedandbreakfast.com for Tiffany's if you're going to go to Hot Springs. Steve and Karen with the Lion and the Rose are in Asheville, North Carolina. Going up to New Hampshire, we've got Oxbow acresnh.com for the inn at Oxbow Acres, and Chef Rob and his wife are at Ash Street Inn in Manchester, New Hampshire. Make sure it's New Hampshire on that Manchester.
Correct.
So go
Correct.
to ashstreetin.com. We want to thank you all for joining us and thank you for what you're doing for the veterans, be it through the Soldiers Angels program and also the B&B for vets. So thank you all for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.